So to share the material collected during the field study in the Peruvian Amazon and give like a lot of voice to the informants' accounts on the ayahuasca experience, to present some examples and the life influences they provided. So I won't go much to the comparisons or discussions with the previous research, as they already published in English, so everybody can look into them. But I could mention the Benny Shannon's Antipodes of the Mind, which is quite a pioneer study. And so my master thesis was written in Finnish. And the context is the Amazonian indigenous mestizo curanderismo tradition, and so located in this case in Peru, Iquitos, which is quite a big center for ayahuasca tourism. And yeah, in the recent years it has created an increased foreign demand on participating in ceremonies, and this raises some issues as the economic opportunities increase. So some like incompetent healers are taking advantage of the situation to hold the ceremonies. And I underline that the importance of an experienced healer guiding the ceremony, also the respect for the traditional healing context, and to follow the dietary restrictions, etc. And even though there are like great benefits that people express, but just to remind that it can be very hard and challenging and needs a lot of dedication and respect to participate, so it should not be taken lightly. And the approach of the study was phenomenological, which means it attempts to understand the religion in its own terms and to describe describe the experiences without or to avoid reductionism, which means to simplify the experience or explain them by something else. And they don't take a position on the validity or truth of the experience. But in any case, they bring us valuable information on the different dimensions of the human experience and the significance those experiences have on the participants. And I also was the research questions where I want to find out also about the motives and benefits on participating in the ceremonies, how it's influenced the spirituality and worldviews, and well, common experiences also, and then how the ayahuasca experience can be compared to Abraham Maslow's theoretical models on peak experience and self-actualization. He was one of the pioneers of transpersonal psychology. A little bit about the informants shortly. So quite a wide range. There were some locals, Peruvians, but also from 13 countries from 4 continents. They were aged, there were 23 informants. They were aged from 19 to 60, 14 male, 9 female. And I tried to, well, the focus, there were some who had few ceremonies experience, but the main focus was with people with more experience, like even several hundred, with total summing up in 1,200 ceremonies. And so there were altogether 19 in-depth questionnaires and 4 interviews, and with like 30 broad questions. And also some open discussions and with more participants. And also, in order to understand the topic, it's necessary also to participate in the ceremony. So in several locations we had, apart from the field study, have been going to Peru. So the motives, very shortly, well, the categories are always a bit artificial, as people have several motives, but it was mainly classified as to heal, and also it was mentioned healing about the self, but also healing others, well, in different planes, and well, attaining harmony and balance. Then learning, studying, and acquiring knowledge about oneself or life, also about the world, universe, spiritual dimensions. Then the spiritual growth and development, growing as a human being, raising awareness, fine-tuning the senses, and so on. So the healing benefits that people had in this sample, first the physical aspects, there was 30-kilo weight loss and maintaining it, hypothyroid, visual processing, ataxia, sinusitis, chronic hives, skin rash, tension in stomach, chronic also, rebalancing the nervous system after stress-induced adrenal overload, irregular heartbeat, insomnia, pre-cancer in the glandule, chronic intestinal disease, type 2 herpes, not totally cured but able to control it, bad skin complaint on the face, which was 95% healed, cyst, some sort of tumor in the colon, and chronic headaches. And on the mental and emotional side, depression, trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder arising from childhood abuse, exorcism, and through that reconnection to the body, bad habit, ability to control cravings better, sense of a lack of strength, negative destructive thought patterns, worrying, emotional and spiritual poisoning caused by leukemia, stress, unbalance, enhanced the abilities to cure with self-love, mental peace, more tolerant and accepting of self and others, clearer and sharper mind, efficiency in thinking, more awake, better memory, much more connected to the heart and feeling more love. And the teachings, well, there were teachings about spirituality. It's better to quote the informants in these areas. So I thought spirituality was something to be separated from my daily life, but ayahuasca showed spirituality should be lived together with life. It's another one. It seems that I see spiritual sides in the everyday life. And yes, God is everywhere, here and now, not a distant, inaccessible mental concept. And God is always in my heart, and I can have a direct connection with God through the space of my heart whenever I want to. Then also teachings about nature of reality and ayahuasca and consciousness and life in general, but I will focus, because of the limited time, I focus on being a human in soon. So the ways of learning, many informants say that the lessons continued long after the ceremonies, and in order to get all the benefits from the lessons, they need to be applied in the practical life, for example, by adopting healthy and clean ways of living. And I quote, "The learning is completely personal and experiential. You know what you have learned, not only in theory, but with your whole being. Ayahuasca adapts to your own unique learning process. It teaches you the lessons you need to learn." And then, so the theoretical framework I applied, because there were so many. It was like a main theme, and in most answers there were like references to self-development or self-actualization, even there wasn't not a particular question about it. So I took the Abraham Maslow's theory of self-actualization and the peak experiences relation to them. And shortly, in Maslow's later theoretical formulation, self-transcendence was still separated from self-actualization and placed on top of his famous hierarchy of needs. And then about the ways he describes, or the ways of conduct to achieve self-actualization, there were, in all those categories, there were correspondences. So the informants mentioned becoming more conscious, aware and present in any state of being, aware of life around and within them, compassionate, tolerant, mindful, energetically sensitive, self-dependent, open in communication and free in thought, humble, patient, forgiving. It has balanced them more as a human being, feeling stronger and healthier in their bodies, living more in harmony with their highest aspirations and dreams, strengthening the intuitive voice, increased well-being, connecting with the true me, getting to know oneself better and trust oneself more, confront with their deepest problems. Ayahuasca has helped to develop an understanding of their place in the world, help nurture and find resolutions for past events, and add closure to historical stories, both personal and worldly, which were having negative effect on their way of being in the world. This continues still. So the ayahuasca has taught them, according to the informants, to express gratitude, live without fear, love yourself, forgive, feel much greater respect for all living beings, and most of all, an immense respect for the ayahuasca itself, to become a more complete and full being. And then, in many ways, it is helping to reset my being, cleansing me of guilt, shame, and disconnect with the world around me. I began to notice how it shaped, cleansed, and realigned my inner and created physical body, emotional body, spiritual body, and connected with the soul and core of my personal, human, and world being. I experienced a complete self-examination of my life from an early age. It was a deep emotional cleaning. Heal the impression of being meaningless and lost in the world shows sensually that you are much greater than is visible in normal life, and makes feel immortality of the soul you are. Gives the sensation that your life has a meaning and that you are a free, powerful being. From timelessness, it is very obvious how short life is, that it's necessary to live really and intensively right here and now, or it will pass by and you never lived really. It helps to overcome blockages, fears, resignation, to start living in the best way. And one informant's words, he said that ayahuasca helped to perceive or observe what makes him flow more harmonically, full of energy, or what makes me feel empty and full of negativity, like also outside of the ceremonies. And then some, examples of the peak experience, I can't explain in very much detail, so I generalized a bit. There were direct contact and conversation with God, in a very intimate way. Experiences of the expansion of consciousness to be the universe. I think most of us here have tried ayahuasca, so being connected with everything and to feel the infinite love as the essence of all creation. And then quoting, I have been able to what I would call access the sacred vaults, where I have been gifted with downloads of many universal energetics knowledge, a sort of access into knowing everything on the planet. Not at all in an egocentric place, but in a place where egocentrism is dissolved. Another, I feel like a timeless, immortal soul that is connected with spiritual entities and the spiritual parts of all the things in the world. I feel this divine life energy pulsing through my body in an extreme, intensive way. I feel that the source of this power is an indescribable ocean of love, consciousness, and spiritual light, which radiates out of the eternal black, this non-existing matrix of all, the nothing of Buddhists and the old creation myths. So I feel as a part of divine energy, complete, all right, powerful, and responsible. Okay. Then to discuss or tell a little bit about the extraordinary and anomalous experiences that didn't quite fit, that Abraham Maslow didn't mention about. So, so there were collective shared visions, like that several people saw of demons, or demons being pulled out of somebody's body. A dead friend of a participant who was also perceived by another one, and then entered in conversation with. And protective shields that were put around the ceremonial space or the house, and without talking about it, like somebody else had seen them. And encounters with dead people and spirits, they were often a very warm and physical experience. As a grandfather, a mother who touched the cheek of her daughter, a father who had abandoned or left the family when the informant was 2 years old, so he managed to have deep discussions and contact with him and about explaining and understanding the past events, and that everything went as it should have been. And then a brother who had recently died, I think the day or two before, and who still hadn't realized that he had died, and then the master needed to call an angel to guide the brother to somewhere far, and this was also seen in a very clear way, just as the brother would have been there. And an aborted fetus 5 years before, and which was very angry that he had been aborted and that he was left in a space that he couldn't be born again. So the fetus demanded like a ritual or like a funeral ceremony, which was then like to light a candle or something. And then death and rebirth and initiation. There was one informant who told of like being very physically being consumed, eaten and consumed by a plant and broke up to molecules and then spit out. And then possibility of divination. There was when one girl who told about some stories like considering another person who should a visitor, a foreigner who should leave the town or leave the area, and told this to him, and then he decided to stay, and because there was a party in the community, and he jumped to the river, but it was so shallow, the water, so he was paralyzed. And but she said she could see things for others, but not to herself. So, and cases of self-healing, for example, an abuse trauma, which was the story of it was embedded in a scroll in her left shoulder and was released by vomiting. Then, then another case of like a feeling of sadness, which was stored and located in the knee and released through the space of heart. So in the knee it was causing like real physical illness and not being able to walk, but was cured this way. So the curious thing here is that like some physical illnesses or that the emotional illnesses can be located like very specifically in certain part of a physical body. And then, encounters with spirit entities as good spirits, angels, guides, who are helping and guiding in the healing, and then bad spirits, demons being pulled out of the body. And so the few words, okay, no, minimum, maximum. So shortly about the views on the nature of reality. So people feel that there's in their visions there's an increased sense of realness, that what they see in the ceremonies under influence of ayahuasca seems more real than the reality, and and to a sense that they have an access to real and final knowledge. And this is not attained by analysis or reflection, rather than through a direct connection or even assimilation with the object of knowledge. And this transcends the frontiers between the subject and the object, or the known and the knower. But the discussion on the validity, like people present their experiences, but in the scope of this investigation or the study of religion, we can't really go into the discussion of the truth value or the ontological truth. But they're still significant as phenomenological worldview interpretations of the people experiencing them. And one important concept in the culture is la ciencia, or la ciencia vegetal, meaning science or vegetable science. And the comments on the nature of la ciencia is that it's a universal source of information which covers everything there has ever been, is now, or ever will be. And la ciencia is an absolute, unquestionable, and non-negotiable truth. And according to the informants, it is uncorrupted. Ayahuasca is a telephone that enables you to talk with the science. God is science, science is God. Ayahuasca can lie, the science cannot. So here it's important to point out that it's important to develop the skills to separate the lies from the truth, or how they consider, or the constructions of your own mind with the visionary, the information attained from the visionary states. And in order to establish a connection with the science, you need to fine-tune yourself by purifying the organism and the mind, to be full of love and cleanness, to have a good intent and strong will. You need to believe in it. You need self-discipline, focus, and attention. And so just, briefly, not going into the theoretical analysis or discussion or comparison that's been made on the master thesis, but so that the central conclusion anyway is that the motives of self-actualization and self-transcendence as guiding factors of person's life seem to gain a long-lasting and permanent role in the informant's life. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening.